Here's the truth about being a founder. You're going to have to make decisions that not everyone will understand, even the people closest to you. I've had to face tough moments where I had to choose my mission over relationships, and it's never easy. But choosing yourself and your purpose doesn't mean you're selfish. It actually can mean that you're all in. So in this video, I'll share my hard lessons I've learned about navigating relationships as a founder and staying true to the vision that drives me. Because if you're not choosing yourself, who's going to? I do think that there's a reality to needing to at least be willing to let go of relationships that are no longer serving you. And I do think that that's honestly one of the most difficult things, and why a lot of people, even if they don't want to go and build a company, why a lot of people just don't progress in their life in general. They're really scared and emotionally attached to the people around them that they know if they were to choose a more expansive path for themselves, they're going to be judged, they're going to be misunderstood, they're going to be separated from that zone of familiarity and what's comfortable. And, you know, we can all say, I don't care what people think or whatever, but the human reality is most people care what people think. And you're actually way better off just owning the fact, you know, if that's there, if that fear of judgment, if you can literally feel the pull of people's energy, right? When you think about making daring or courageous decisions, or saying something that you've never said, standing for something that's maybe provocative or controversial, declaring a big dream if you're from a small town, you know, there's so many different ways that can manifest. In Australia, we have something called tall poppy syndrome, and it's so real. You know, if you stand up in the country I'm from and you say, hey, I want to do something great and I want to be big and I'm the right person to do that, the culture is to cut down the tall poppy. And so, you know, I think in our lives, we have so many versions of this, like so many people that grow up and they have lifelong friends, which I think is beautiful, by the way, the ability to have long-term friendships. But so many people, because of that, don't question, well, who are the people that would actually be compatible with me now? You know, and we have relationships around us that are actually based more on convenience. And that can actually constrain our growth, and it can constrain our self-expression. One thing that I've always done since a really young age is travel. And I've traveled probably to 50 countries around the world. And a lot of those trips were actually as a speaker and a facilitator. And I'm so blessed that I got to have those professional experiences in so many countries around the world, because you get to see just how defined we are by the culture around us. And a lot of us don't even question it, right? When I did my first trip around Australia, I traveled to almost 300 communities around Australia in my van. It took almost 2 years. And I was really young when I did that, still a teenager. And it was amazing to me that some of these remote and rural and regional communities, these small towns, there were so many different ways that people lived their life. There were so many different ways that people were taught, you know, is the right way to live. And it made me recognize at a very young age that there's no one way to live, right? That you can actually be anyone that you want to be. But these narratives, you know, first within our family, then our education system, then our immediate community, and the culture that surrounds that, the culture, I call it the culturescape. And then your nation, you know, and then the government kind of attitudes and regulations. Like if you grow up under a communist government versus a capitalist government versus a socialist government, all these things, the media exposure you had, these influences all go into programming and shaping the way that you think. And so to free yourself of all of that is a tremendous task. To really become sovereign in your thinking and your self-expression, and to genuinely get to a place where it's not that you don't care about people, but you're no longer constrained by what they think of you, because you have a genuine integrated understanding that what they think about you has nothing to do with you and all to do with them. That's when you get to play in a space of total freedom. And I think entrepreneurs have just a natural inclination to be kind of anti-authoritarian, because I mean the word itself, authority, literally comes from the word author. It means the one that writes the rules. And entrepreneurs, because they're building something that's never been done before, you are forced to start to write new rules for how you're going to navigate reality. And I think along the way, a lot of entrepreneurs, because they're not constrained within a predetermined system, they're not needing to wear a uniform, no one's telling them they have to be somewhere between 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. They naturally are living outside those parameters. You then start to question other narratives that you've been indoctrinated into. And I think this is where entrepreneurship is such an incredible path. And understanding how to think like an entrepreneur is such a powerful thing, even if you don't want to build a company, because it could be that, right now you're in a job with a boss that doesn't see you or value you or care about your potential at all, but you're too scared to actually free yourself, from the constraints of that environment. And I care about that too. I care about people really seeing things for what they are and recognizing that you can be at the cause of your life, not just the effect. Personal relationships that you find yourself in that really, after trying and trying, so let's take like the most common example for a founder. There's some crazy statistic, I don't directly quote me on it, but it's something I think like 80% of founders that had a long-term relationship when they started their startup end up going through a separation. And that's not a coincidence, right? Maybe one of you guys in the comments can tell me what the stat actually is. I think it was actually a Horizon report that reported on that. But that's not a coincidence. What that's speaking to is the founder's journey is so crazy, and you go through so much change, and the person you were at the start of that journey is so fundamentally different to the person you become, that having a partner that stands by you and allows you to grow and actually grows with you through all of those stages is incredibly rare, right? And I've actually had investors tell me directly that they look at the relationship the founders in that they're investing in, because they actually see it as one of the potential liabilities or hindrances to that founder's success. Or on the other side of that, if they have a great partner, someone that's really going to stand by them and give them that security and support them, they obviously see that as a positive thing. And when you are sort of midway through your journey and you have, whether it's a partner or maybe it's a family member, that you're so close to, that just keeping them close it's going to prohibit you from reaching your potential, that can be such a difficult thing to see and to accept, and to be strong enough to actually, walk away from those things that are no longer serving you. And I don't think we really have a societal context that encourages that either, because, I think most people are geared towards, well, you have a 95% chance that your startup's going to fail, so why would you make all these sacrifices for something that only has like a 5% chance of, succeeding? And the way that I've reconciled these moments of pain and non-attachment in my life is to realize that beyond the specific company that I'm trying to build exists my evolutionary trajectory and my evolutionary potential. And honestly, I haven't found many founders in the startup space that I can have these conversations with, hence why I'm making this YouTube channel. But I really see it as a spiritual journey, and that gives me a strength that I think if I was just to see it in kind of a very three-dimensional way, I wouldn't have that same resilience, I wouldn't have that same strength. But making those really hard choices in alignment with who I need to be for my company is because my company is so deeply connected to my life purpose and so connected to my evolutionary process as a human being. And so, even if my company fails, I'm making the decisions that I know are expanding me in the direction of growth and in the direction of my potential and my freedom, which is also very important, because then the pressure is not completely on the company. I think actually it's very important to do your best to hold like a degree of neutrality around your relationship with your company, and that comes back to your personal sense of sovereignty. When you're sovereign in yourself and you understand that all these outside circumstances, that can seem so chaotic and so beyond your control, what actually is within your control, are the decisions you make, how you make them, the intention you make them with, and the direction those decisions are moving you. And even if something doesn't go your way, no one can take from you the growth and strength of character that comes from being able to make those decisions. And I use that as a directive and a guide for my emotional energy. It's not that, there's no pain. I've experienced immense amounts of pain in this journey, but I've directed that pain towards creation and towards growth and towards the betterment of myself. And again, even if you're not an entrepreneur, I think it's such a powerful thing to learn how to do that, how to direct your emotion, being your energy in motion, in the direction that you really want to move, whether that is depression, sadness, anxiety, grief, loneliness, or it's really amazing emotions like joy and gratitude and peace and love and freedom. The spectrum of your emotions, all that exists within those emotions are energy that you can use to create and propel yourself forward when you get to that sort of place of mastery, and you're no longer letting your emotions ride you. You're the one kind of in the driver's seat. If you're at a point in your journey where you're literally making these decisions right now, it is so tough. I really understand how hard it is to get to a place of decisiveness. So say you're in the process of deciding whether or not to break up with a partner. You have to get comfortable with the fact that they might not understand and the people around you might not understand. And if you can ground yourself in that, which comes down to you deeply knowing why you're making this decision, you have to be connected to the reason you're making this decision, and you have to find that strength within yourself that is really sure and really certain. Like, don't make these decisions from a place of reaction within you. And that takes sitting with things. It takes an immense amount of vulnerability with yourself. But if you can find yourself in that place where you back yourself and you know that you're staying true to yourself, even if these decisions are really hard, it makes it so much easier to endure the volatility that might come from the outside world when you start to make these decisions. So, other people will feel what they feel, and also, like, they're allowed to feel what they feel, right? You can't be afraid of that. You can't be constrained by that. You can't carry that. And ultimately, if you try to, you're not serving yourself and you're not serving them, and you're not really serving, anyone in that situation. Because every time a decision like this is made in our lives, there's actually an evolutionary invitation for everyone involved. It could also be that you're sitting with decisions like this, and your partner actually might be able to come with you on that journey. But I think the most important thing is to be able to put everything that you feel is unsaid, everything that you feel isn't working in the relationship, you need to be able to put that on the table. And you're the only one that really knows how much you're kind of putting on the table in that sense. Full vulnerability is really, really hard. And it's been a journey for me to sort of say, these are the things that I know I need. These are the things that if I don't have in a relationship, this isn't going to work for me. And I know that, like, hand on heart, I know that took a massive amount of development to get to a place where I loved myself enough actually to be able to lead with that in a relationship, or all relationships really. And there is a reality that when you get to that place of development, there aren't honestly probably that many people that can meet you there, but I definitely would prefer to have a handful of people close that have a total respect for my needs and the boundaries I have that keep me sane and keep me on track than many people around me that don't really know who I am and can't really hold space for me. That's what preserves my peace. It's such a personal decision at the end of the day. And I would encourage any of you that are sort of going through that to think actually beyond just the needs of your company, and actually think about you as a whole human being, and the kind of environment and relationships and level of intimacy and level of honesty and alignment that you need to be the best possible version of you. And I think all of us know that deep down, even if it's hard to kind of admit to ourselves. So just a reminder, if this is you, if this resonates, you're not alone in your journey. Pretty much every great entrepreneur has been exactly where you are. And I encourage you to keep leaning into that journey, and keep watching these videos. Put a comment below. Tell me about your experience. Let's build a community of founders actually that are willing to put themselves, on the line and meet one another and actually support one another and collaborate instead of compete. If you are looking for a community like that, by the way, I encourage you to go to skool.com/institute. The link is below. I run an active free community of founders, entrepreneurs, and creatives that love supporting one another, masterminding with each other, and it's just a great vibe. So if you're looking for that, please jump in. I'd love to see you in there. Other than that, I'll see you in the next video.